You already know what you're about to say. You can feel it forming, a pressure behind your tongue, a certainty that a response is necessary. There is a split second where some part of you stands back and narrates. This will not end well. You should stop. You are not going to stop. And then, despite that quiet narrator, you say it anyway. Or you send it. Or you do the thing. Within minutes, sometimes seconds, you are left in the aftermath, wondering how you got here again. This is not a character flaw. It is a mechanism, and mechanisms can be understood and changed. Something happens, a tone, a comment, a familiar situation that sets off an old pattern. Your body registers the cue before your thinking mind catches up. The response arrives fast and feels justified in the moment. Later it feels disproportionate and mortifying. The real cost is seldom the single outburst. It is the story that accumulates. I cannot control myself. I keep doing this. I know better and still fail. That narrative shapes identity more powerfully than any single episode. Most common advice about anger focuses on managing the explosion. Breathe. Count, step away. Those techniques help arrest the immediate escalation and are useful tools, but they rarely reach the place where the pattern is produced. They manage the aftermath, not the machinery that manufactures the aftermath. The place where durable change can happen is the tiny interval immediately before the outburst, the 2 seconds in which a conclusion forms and from which the emotion follows. You know the moment I mean, a partner's tone, a colleague's dismissal, a message that doesn't arrive when you expected it. In that instant, an invisible judgment forms, a belief about what the event means. They disrespected me. They are doing this on purpose. This will never change. By the time you feel the anger, that conclusion has already fired. The anger is not an arbitrary explosion. It is the emotional consequence of an unseen interpretation. The problem, then, is not the emotion itself, but the belief that produced it. There is hope in that insight, because beliefs can be examined. Marcus Aurelius discovered this through a lifetime of private practice. In his journal, later known as Meditations, he repeatedly returned to reminders not to be irritated, to check his assumptions about others' intent, and to notice how his judgments shaped his reactions. He understood that the first flicker of feeling is often involuntary, but the second movement, what you do with that flicker, can be trained. That training looks nothing like suppression. From the outside, suppression and transformation can appear the same. No loud outburst. From the inside, they are opposite. Suppression buries the charge. The belief remains intact and ready to fuel the next eruption. Transformation brings the belief into the light so it can be tested, questioned, and revised. Naming the belief dissolves its secrecy and reduces its automatic power. This is the core of the practice I call the reviewed response. It is performed not during the heat of emotion, but after the event, in a calmer moment when reflection is possible. It has 3 concrete steps. First, return mentally to the instant just before your response, the moment the trigger landed and the judgment was formed. Second, ask plainly, what did I decide that this meant in that instant? Put that conclusion into words. He was dismissing me. She was deliberately undermining me, or this will never change. Third, do not immediately try to prove the belief right or wrong. Your first job is simple. Identify and name the belief so it no longer runs in the dark. Why this works? Beliefs are automatic until they are made explicit. Once articulated, a belief becomes a hypothesis you can examine. You create a half second of recognition the next time the trigger appears. Here is the belief that usually runs this situation, and that recognition is the gap Marcus described. That half second is the place where you can choose differently. Reframe the event, ask for clarification, remain silent on purpose, or respond with a question instead of an accusation. To make this practical, try a short, realistic routine. After an episode you regret, wait until you are calm enough to think clearly. Later that evening, or the next morning, replay the moment until you can isolate the split-second conclusion. Write it down in 1 sentence, then write 2 short alternative interpretations that are less threatening, or at least plausible. If your belief was, they don't respect me, alternatives might be, they are distracted right now, or they didn't realize how that sounded. The goal is not to force optimism, but to broaden the field of possible meaning so your automatic belief becomes less dominant. Start small. One reviewed response this week is enough to begin. Choose a recent episode you regret and do the 3-step process. Over time, increase the frequency to 2 or 3 reviewed responses per week. Track what you notice about the speed of your reactions and the intensity of regret. Expect the process to feel slow and mechanical at first. That is normal. Discipline is required because this work is about creating visibility where there was invisibility. You do not have to eliminate anger. Anger signals a set of values and an engagement with the world. The aim is to remove the secrecy and inevitability from your reactions. When a belief is named and seen, it can no longer run the show without your awareness. That is where compassion meets effectiveness. You stop punishing yourself for a pattern you could not previously observe, and you begin learning how to interrupt it. Finally, consider how this practice changes relationships and decisions. When you begin to notice and name your judgments, you will speak less from assumption and more from curiosity. Conversations that used to end in silence and replay can become opportunities for clarification. When you said X earlier, I felt dismissed. Was that what you meant? That single shift, replacing assumption with inquiry, alters dynamics more than any clever argument ever will. What is the one thing you say or do in anger that you regret most? If you're willing to share, leave it in the comments. If words feel heavy tonight, leave a moon emoji. That is enough. Try one reviewed response this week. Notice the gap, notice the change, the doors open, and the next video will explore how to widen that gap until reaction becomes a choice, not a reflex.